And welcome in. This is Citadel Gray Line back with you as we get ready for the next 30 minutes or so to talk and discuss all things Citadel Bulldogs. We are powered in part by some great sponsors, IPS Packaging among them, and we'll tell you more about this Fountain Inn-based company in just a second. Glad to have you on board. We've got from the Post and Courier Andrew Miller standing by. Also, Thomas Scruggs is back with us, as he is actually en route to Charleston, so he's going to be on with us via telephone today. So we decided not to cancel the show, as tough of a decision as it was to have him on telephone. It's better to have him there than to have anyway. We'll have all that discussion. The Citadel loses to VMI. They lose the Silver Shako, a close, hard-fought game, but in the end, VMI with a fourth-quarter touchdown to take the lead, and the Citadel not able to march back down the field and get a winning touchdown in the closing moments. And the Shako now resides in Lexington, Virginia. We'll talk about that. I had a chance to be at the game this past weekend, and I've got some things to say, not necessarily about what I saw on the field, but what I saw inside Johnson Hagood Stadium and around Johnson Hagood Stadium. So I'm going to kind of pick on Tommy Boy, Thomas Scruggs, about that when we get to that section of the show today. But we'll also discuss what lies ahead. The Citadel now with an open week, as they will be resting up for the trip to Homewood and the Sanford Bulldogs, the opponent next week. Let's go to our Post and Courier beat writer, Andrew Miller. Good to have you back on the show, sir.
Thanks for having me back, John.
And good to see you, although briefly, on the field after the game this past weekend. You probably didn't know who the heck this guy was knocking you on the shoulder.
Yeah, no, I did recognize you. I was just unfortunately a little bit busy at that point.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, because you actually stuck your camera up there in front of Drayton's face right when the game ended. Does he not do a post-game press conference?
He does, but it's always I always like, the more a coach says, the more insight you're going to get into what he thought of the game. And one of the things I've learned very early about Maurice Drayton is that he does not hold anything back, whether that was on the field or back in the post-game press conference. The post-game press conference is right next to the Citadel's locker room. So if you're facing, and I can't remember which side, if it's north and south or east and west, I can't remember.
It'd be the west side stands over there, right by the stands, really is where it is, by the home side stands.
Right. So the scoreboard is on the north side or the south side?
Yeah, that's the north side. North side.
So it's the south. So the south side building that's right there, right beside the locker room. There's this little room where the coaches use, and we do our post games there. I have talked to the new Citadel SID, a guy named Jay Sullivan. Very nice guy, very good at what he does. We were kind of batting around some ideas, but that's probably not the best place to have a post game press conference, because basically everything that goes on in that locker room, I can pretty much hear what is said and what's kind of discussed. And let me tell you what, Maurice Drayton, not happy at all after the loss to VMI. Felt like as coaches, mainly as coaches, they blew some opportunities there to win that game or give his players a chance. And then he was a little bit upset with some of the play calling and some other things. And that's as animated as I've ever heard Maurice Drayton in before, after, during a game.
You heard him in the locker room talking to his players like that, or he talked to you like
Correct.
that?
No. He didn't talk to. He's incredibly nice and cordial and very professional when he's dealing with the media. But that was like the post game talk that every coach gives to every team after a game, good or bad. And there were he had some choice words to say. Let's just say that at a very high volume. But he was. That's as animated as I've ever seen him or heard him. Because I didn't get. Obviously, there's a wall between us, but you heard everything he said for sure.
Yeah. Well, this game this past week against VMI was an unusual ending, because when you play VMI, you always have a ceremony afterwards where the Silver Shako is passed along to the other team, and the bands play the alma maters. The players for both schools stay out there a lot longer. And I happen to be right outside the locker room myself. And I don't even know when Coach Drayton has a chance to talk to the whole team, because a lot of those players just kind of hung out on the field long after the game, unless it was after a horn blew or something like that.
Well, and then the other thing, he wanted the players on the field to see them pass the silver shako from president to president to VMI. He made a point of bringing that up in the post game press conference as well, that he wanted that to hurt and wanted that to sting for the players, so they remember that and remember that feeling. So when you play them next year, you can go up there to Lexington, Virginia, and get it back.
Well, VMI, to their credit, did not give up in this game, and they came to Charleston, South Carolina, and I give them a lot of credit. VMI, from a football standpoint, has had a rough year, just like the Citadel, but they found a way when it mattered most to stay in the ball game and come back from a deficit in the fourth quarter. They brought a lot of cadets, or should I say cadets, to Charleston. They had a band that you could actually hear on the home side of the Citadel, unlike the Citadel Regimental Band, which you can't have here on the home side. They looked sharp. They stole the big red flag at some point, and some fisticuffs, I believe, ensued on that. Not quite as bad as 10 years ago when that a female cheerleader for VMI beat up a cadet. But in all, you got to give VMI a tip of the shako after they end up winning 17-13 over the Citadel this past weekend.
Yeah, you do. They certainly came here and looked like they were on a mission to get the Silver Shako back after 2 years that the Citadel had it. Um, but they're not having that bad of a year. I mean, they've already won 3 games this year. They're 3-3, and I think 2-1 in the Southern Conference, so they're doing okay. But yeah, to me, the Citadel had several opportunities to win the game. I think one of the things that sticks out to me, one of the things that sticks out to the coaching staff, is what happened at the end of the first half, where it looked like the Citadel was going to go in and really lead, not only for the first time in the season, but have the lead at halftime going in. They get inside right around the red zone. They're just outside the 20-yard line, and unfortunately, Grayson Underwood throws an interception there. And I think what Maurice Drayton was most upset about was the play calling in that situation, because I think what he wanted to do is, okay, we got a really good chance at a field goal. We probably do have a field goal. Let's run a couple of just rushing plays, hang on to the ball, kick the field goal, have some momentum going into the first half, going into the locker room with a lead. And I think that really disappointed him. Obviously, turnovers are bad at any time in the game, but having it right there at the end of the first half where you got a chance to go in and take the lead, get some confidence, get some momentum going, I think he was really disappointed in that.
Well, this was a game that was right there in the grasp of El Cid, and unfortunately, it didn't work. I thought Grayson threw the ball pretty well over the course of this game. Yeah, you had the interception, and in the end, he got on a fourth down play with a chance to win the game, got a sack, and that kind of wrapped things up. But all in all, I thought the Citadel looked far better passing than they did running.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. He did miss 2 deep balls that, especially that one in the fourth quarter. I think he had Malachi Taylor pretty much wide open on a post pattern. Just overthrew it by a couple of steps. I think he actually said after the game that's a throw he'd love to have back. Maybe lead him a little bit less there. But yeah, you're right. I thought overall Grayson played a really solid game. I thought the running game had its moments, but yeah, probably could have been a little bit more consistent. But when you're VMI, I think that's what you're trying to stop. You're trying to stop the run and then make the Citadel throw the ball. But again, the play calling overall, especially the last 3 games, I can't complain one bit. I think they've been innovative. They've thrown in some trick plays. They've used some misdirection stuff. I think that they're really doing everything they can with the talent that they have right now on this roster to make it to give themselves the best chance to win.
And we don't want to leave out special teams in this game. I thought a key play, I think it definitely helped VMI kind of stay perhaps away from potential scoring again, was our punt team. I remember a punt that went down at like the 1-yard line that was impressive.
Yeah, the special teams have been, for the most part, I think, pretty good the entire season. I remember the fake field goal that they ran against Furman. That was really successful. But yeah, I think special teams have not been have been a plus rather than a minus for the Bulldogs this year.
Yeah, I was trying to get that actual distance on that punt, but it was pretty impressive. I guess it was a 50-yard punt by James Platt. with a very impressive deal going down there. But unfortunately, I'd rather not be talking about punts. I'd rather be talking about pontificating wins in this case. The Citadel, again, with the loss, looking at some of the other statistics for this game, the Citadel with 10 second quarter points after being shut out in the first quarter. They come back, and it was a tie score going into halftime. But it was VMI there in the second half with the touchdown late in the fourth quarter with a 19-yard scamper by Hunter Rice that put them on top. The Citadel had plenty of time to come down, and they ended up failing on two occasions to get the winning score and the Keydets with the victory from this past weekend. Anything else from you, Andrew, before we get feedback here from Thomas Scruggs?
Yeah, again, a really good opportunity for them to get their first win, to gain some confidence there moving forward through the season. I think one of the things, and we can touch on this a little bit more, I think what we're going to see here for the last 4 games is we're going to see a lot of young players out there, a lot of guys, freshmen and true freshmen, redshirt freshmen and true freshmen, really get an opportunity to play and show what they got. I think that's going to, because now you only have 4 games left in the regular season, and you can play those true freshmen, get them some game experience, and they don't lose that year. They can come back next year as redshirt freshmen. So I think we're going to see a lot of that here moving on, beginning with the Sanford game coming up next weekend.
And definitely want to salute our seniors, or those who will probably not be suiting up in the Citadel blue and white over these next couple of games as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, want to let you know that here at Citadel Gray Line, we have some great partners, including IPS Packaging and Automation, Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, y'all.com. The South's homepage is also one of our great partners. And from the class of 1995, Daybreak Adult Care Services and Pedigo Electric Bikes, with locations in Aiken and West Columbia, Soda City. That location there closes at 6 most days, so if you're looking for a late afternoon workout, check out Pedigo Electric Bikes there in the Columbia area. Thomas Scruggs has taken opportunity to rent one of the electric bikes and has looked up some of the inventory there at Pedigo Electric Bikes. Thomas, welcome into Citadel Gray Line. If you will, take a moment to tell us about Daybreak Adult Care, what Coker's got going on with that particular business in the Columbia area, and his other business, Pedigo Electric Bikes.
Well, John, I can't tell you much about Daybreak Adult Care Services. I think you're a little close to needing that. You know that
your phone's cutting out. Go ahead. It really was cut. It really was cutting out. But yeah, I don't also need you to pick on my age.
Is that better, John? Am I? Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you loud and clear. Now brag on Daybreak Adult Care Services.
Okay, Daybreak Adult Care Services is a home care service. You can stay in the comfort of your own home, remain independent, and get the care you need without leaving your house. So that company was started several decades ago by Coker Day, my classmate from the Citadel. And of course, you just mentioned our other sponsor. Coker's other venture is Pedigo Bikes. I've had a couple classmates recently go over and purchase a brand new electric bike.
The Citadel Gray Line special.
Yes, sir. So I think Coker has definitely experienced some support from the Citadel alumni base.
Well, I know those electric bikes are pretty darn special, and you can get while you're young, enjoy a Pedigo electric bike from their locations in Aiken and Soda City. And then as you grow a little older, you can switch over to Daybreak Adult Care Services. By the way, daybreakcare.com, the website to learn more about Daybreak Adult Care Services. In the Columbia, Lexington area, you can find them at 803-356-4451, 803-356-4451. Thomas, if you don't mind, sir, tell me your thoughts on this Silver Shako setback by El Cid.
Well, it's definitely a shame anytime we give up the Silver Shako to our sister school, VMI, up in the mountains of Virginia. It was especially when it's a game. You know, when you looked at the rest of the schedule, John, this VMI and Wofford, we thought those were winnable games, especially being at home. And just the manner in which we lost the game. You know, you're up by 4. three there with less than 10 minutes to go in the game, and you just can't hold them. And then you get the ball back, and we just looked so out of sync on offense on that last drive. I think everybody saw it coming at the end. But, it's a shame definitely to see that Silver Shenko at Virginia.
Head the wrong direction. Andrew, anything you want to add to what Thomas said?
Yeah, no, I know frustrating that I think of the two things that are more frustrating, I would think giving up that touchdown to VMI the way that the defense had been playing most of the game, they've been playing pretty well, and then to give up that long touchdown drive that ended up being the game winner for VMI. I know that was pretty frustrating for everybody there, but just a game that I thought they had every opportunity to win and just couldn't make enough plays when they needed to make those plays in those crucial situations. But that's a part of becoming a winning program. That those are the plays you have to make, and you have to do those in those crucial moments. And that's a process. People just think, oh, that's going to happen overnight, and it doesn't. It's a process that you got to learn.
Yeah. Now, this was loss number 7 now for this Citadel football team. Andrew, going back to Coach Drayton, was there anything a little bit different coming from him after loss 7 when he talked about the hardship of his team?
Not really. Again, he is the most blunt, upfront coach I've ever dealt with as far as what the issues are. He was upset about the sins that they committed, and then people who don't know what sins are, they're self-inflicted negative plays or negatives as he calls them. And they're making some of those same mistakes again. And he doesn't. The thing about him is he doesn't put it on the players. He puts it more on the coaches because they've got to teach better. They've got to be better in these situations. Again, I think there were moments there where guys were in the right place to make a play, and then they just couldn't make the play in those situations. And I don't know if that was because athletically they couldn't do it, or they were just. I think that was more of what it was than anything else. But yeah, he's pretty blunt about the way things are going, and it's kind of refreshing to deal with a guy like that.
All right. Well, again, it's an open week maybe, and more bluntness coming from Coach Drayton. By the way, we did put in a request to have him come on this week's show, and evidently we weren't able to make that happen. But Coach Drayton, if you're watching us, you are welcome to come on Citadel Gray Line. We would love to get you or any member of your staff at any point to come on and, he's actually been a guest on our show before. I think it was 2013 that a assistant coach at Southern Miss at that time, I believe is what he was doing, was on our program, Coach Drayton. But we had hoped to get him on for the open week, but maybe he's busy getting everything straightened out. We sure hope so.
And
Bulldogs, pardon me?
I was going to say recruiting too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too. But we wish him well, whatever he's doing this week in Charleston. Maybe he's shopping for a new pickup truck, because he did tell us that he has, in that press conference, he's got about a 10-year-old pickup truck, which is.
So the air conditioning doesn't work.
And yeah, that's kind of important in Charleston, South Carolina, to have that. Okay, let's talk about the open week. So recruiting is something that this staff's going to be working on, and maybe looking at these last 4 games and mapping out a way to get a W in the column.
Yeah, for sure. Recruiting is obviously hugely important here. He's already got, according to sources that I have, Citadel's already got a couple of verbal commitments already. I know this past weekend, the VMI game, they had a lot of recruits down for the game. And he's really optimistic about the kind of class that he can put together. It's one of the strange things, and I'm going to write a story about this, I think, next week, is that the record really hasn't been a hindrance for the Citadel when they've been recruiting. That they have had guys come in, they've had guys show interest in the Citadel that they thought under normal circumstances wouldn't be interested in coming here, but they've been able to kind of push through the record and talk about the future and talk about the plan and talking about rebuilding the program. And they've been very receptive. The recruits have been very receptive to the message that Maurice has given out. And one thing about Maurice Drayton that we all know is that what a great recruiter he is. So I'm confident that he's going to be able to bring in the kind of athletes, the kind of players that they're going to need to rebuild this thing and get this thing moving in the right direction for sure.
We hope so. Again, an open week. Then it's at Sanford. We'll preview that game big time on next week's Citadel Gray Line. Let me tell you about IPS packaging, and then we're going to talk about something football related, but not necessarily about the team or the coach. We'll get to that in just a second. But let's tell you more about IPS packaging and automation. Ladies and gentlemen, as you're cheering for those mighty Citadel Bulldogs, we want to introduce you to a true champion off the field, IPS Packaging and Automation, a family-owned and operated powerhouse that's been a titan in the packaging industry since 1976, clocking over 4 decades in the game. IPS Packaging and Automation stands tall as a leader in packaging products, automation equipment, and top-notch service. IPS Packaging and Automation plays a crucial role in the packaging processes of countless businesses and manufacturing facilities across the United States. And here is a fun fact, you Bulldog fans. IPS Packaging and Automation has been a proud sponsor of Citadel Athletics for the last 10 years. Yes, if you're at Johnson Hagood Stadium, look down there on the side of the football field and you'll see a beautiful IPS Packaging and Automation logo. Discover what they can do for you. Drive or go onto their website at ipack.com or ring them at 800-277-7007, 800-277-7007. IPS Packaging and Automation is a proud supporter of Citadel Athletics. And it was great seeing that logo on the side, as well as those great Bulldog players who have had their numbers retired. And then sadly, we also have that number 16 out there on the field right now in honor of the late Stanley Myers, who we just lost a few weeks back. While I'm talking about Johnson Hagood Stadium, Andrew, you are welcome to chime in. Would love to get your feedback here. This is John Rawl on Citadel Gray Line. When you're watching 0-6 football teams and you're thinking about what used to be or what might be at El Cid, something came to me at Saturday's game that we really just need to address. And it's our stadium. It's our environment there. It's the engineering aspect. And that's why Thomas Scruggs, who's not visually with us this week, I'm going to make him earn that engineering profession that he's got. Like me, Thomas, back in the early 1990s, was trying to learn how to kill East German soldiers and Soviet Union soldiers. Well, that didn't turn out too good for us, so we had to switch up, and I got into the media business, and he's in the engineering business of all things. So, Thomas, I'm probably going to lean on you more than even Andrew, but Andrew, if you're an engineer, for all means, please chime in. So, coming into Saturday's game, for example, Andrew, you're the Charlestonian. Did we have the wettest of weeks at the end of last week, Friday, Saturday? I know it rained, but did it pour more than it had in a long time in Charleston?
It did rain a little bit, but not more than normal, I would say. Are you talking about the flooding on the street?
Yes, I'm talking about that. We always have flooding, and I realize that because we have a stadium located literally at the Atlantic Ocean. And someone has even told me, this may be completely false, that right there on Hagood Avenue, it's below sea level. Have you ever heard that?
Yes, and I believe that if it's not below sea level, it's certainly right at sea level. So there have been several times that I have gone to Johnson Hagood. Most of the time when I've done this, I have gone for a press conference. So the Monday press conference. And if the Monday press conference is at high tide, especially when there's a full moon or something like that, that street floods and you cannot get to the front of Johnson Hagood Stadium. If you go down 17, you go down the crosstown and you make a right there. There's like a McDonald's there, and I think a Taco Bell.
It's what we call Burger Row.
Burger Row. It used to be a Wendy's across the street. I remember
and a Quincy's. Don't forget about Quincy's.
Yes, I used to frequent that Quincy's quite a bit when it was open there. So you make that right, and the street you can't. That's on Hagood Avenue, correct? Yes, that is Hagood Avenue, and you make that right, and you can't get from really the parking lots that the River Dogs use to the stadium because it's flooded. Now, when I used to have this little Honda Civic that I, for 10 years at very low to the ground, and there's no way I could get through that. Now my wife has bought, I don't know if I told you all this, my wife bought me a SUV for my birthday. and now I probably could make it, but I didn't want to chance it this last time. But the two press conferences ago, the street was so flooded I couldn't get there. I had to go around all the way around the stadium. I can't remember what roads I took to get back there, but it took me like an extra 5 minutes to get to the front of Johnson Hagood, to go into the elevators, to get up there to the fifth floor for the press conference. But yes, that is pretty common when there's a high tide.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
you're a Charlestonian. You might see that in other aspects of the Low Country, but man, for our visitors that come there, or even for knobs and parents of cadets who aren't, I mean, I hate to admit it, I'm not a born and bred Low Country guy. I didn't grow up with that Geechee accent. So I wish I did. I'm envious, frankly. So the whole high tide stuff is foreign to me, okay?
Yeah.
And you'd think I would have picked up on it at Citadel, but being a cadet, you're kind of locked up. It doesn't matter about high tide, really. But, man, just my point is, when you go to a game like this past game was a 1 o'clock kickoff,
right.
As soon as you got out of your car, you had to dodge puddles everywhere, even though it was fairly kind of getting to be a sunny day. It was water everywhere. And I'd hate to have been a very beautiful, or even the ugly women, wearing a very nice dress and boots and all that, and had to go walking through that and worried about ruining my outfit. And that was there even after the game. So what's up with that? And then the other, speaking of puddles, and Thomas, I'm going to lean on you, Mr. Engineer. My God, the bathroom was a disaster. And it wasn't just the men's room, it was the women's room. I asked a woman after the game, I said, hey, did y'all have something going on in your bathroom? And this was on the side of the home stands away from the cadets. This was sort of the south side. And it was a disaster in there from a flooding standpoint, not caused by toilets. It's by the low tide or the high tide. I don't know. I'm not a tide expert. Thomas, what say you about this whole tiding thing and what's going on in Charleston? Good tidings to you, sir.
Yeah, John. So, I remember, back in my days at the Citadel, walking down Hagood Avenue right there at Lockwood, high tide. If you're walking there at high tide, you will be underwater. Your feet will be underwater. So that's always been a problem. We have what we call the sophomore parking lot over where the baseball stadium is now. That always seemed to flood. And, I can't ever remember being in a day game at the Citadel where you didn't have to deal with mud and water puddles. And that's just simply just a matter of just, the elevation being right there at sea level, right below sea level. And I don't know if it's true, but we were told when we were cadets that the highest point of land in Charleston was what we used to call the old Indian Hill. So,
which is on the Citadel campus.
It was on the Citadel campus, yes, sir. So, not surprised at all to hear that, people complaining about, puddles and mud and all that. And I am surprised to hear what you were talking about with the restroom situation. I would like to understand when they said they were flooded. And it did come from the sinks or the toilets. That's interesting. There, I've never experienced that at a home Citadel game.
It was bad. It was bad. It was bad in the men's and the women's bathroom. And again, what if you're a visiting fan? I mean, it was so bad. I got long legs. I had to use every inch of my legs to stretch out to stop from stepping in it was all over the place. And it was so bad when I got home, I had to clean my shoes, not from mud, but from the aroma of a dirty bathroom. And that every person there, I'm sure, had to experience that. Again, I'm not really picking on the school. I'm picking on there's not much we can do about this, can we? We're going to change the kickoff times to where it would be only at low tide. I'm in favor of that. Maybe a good 4 a.m. kickoff.
I don't think so, John. I've said ever since we tore down the stands, what an embarrassing sight that has been.
Yeah.
For Citadel folks. I can't imagine being any fan base coming in and you show up and now they've got what it looks like sand or concrete is so bright it looks like sand. High school stadiums in South Carolina are much nicer than that. So I understand the whole fundraising aspect, financial aspect of it, but it's just kind of hard for me to believe that it was necessary to tear it down when we did and then not have a viable option but to tear it down and put up a bunch of bleachers that I can see at Spring Valley High School here in Columbia.
Yeah, but Mr. Engineer, can't they have some kind of pump in those bathrooms to help suck out some of that water?
Yes, typically when you're at lower elevations like that, you can have a pump. Problem is, John, where are you going to put that pump in a bathroom? You know what I mean? And then where are you going to feed it to? A lot of calculations.
Okay.
Variables go into that.
Well, we'll go to Plan B, which is to have the knobs have buckets, and they'll just scoop it up.
They just need porta-johns for the knobs, and everybody else will be okay.
Yeah, they'll put on what we called in the old day a douche detail.
Yes. I don't think you can say that on the air now, though.
Well, I just did. We're not over the air, so I guess we're allowed to say it, but that's what it was called. Anybody that was there in the old Corps knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, speaking of, I'm hoping before the next game or games, they do come up with some better solution to all that water, man. It was awful. I did hear while tailgating, Andrew, that there is supposed to be, from a source of mine, a tearing down of that makeshift stands on the east side when the season is complete, and there will not be, this is what I was told, tell me if you've heard different, there will not be anything over there while that's being constructed in the 24 season, and then the new east side will be ready to go when North Dakota State arrives with supposedly 5,000 tickets already purchased in advance for the Bison when they show up for the kickoff of the 2025 season. Have you heard any of that, sir?
Yeah, I've heard that. I do know that the plan right now is to have those stands ready for the North Dakota State game. That is something I had not heard, that they were going to tear down the stands and there would be no stands over on the other side for next
year. 24.
I have not. Yeah, I've not heard that, but that does not surprise me because it depending on what they do. Now, some of the stuff in the rendering that has been out there for public consumption, again, from what I've understood from people inside the athletic department, those stands that's the east side. Is that correct? Yeah, that's the east side. My understanding is that those stands on the east side will be a little bit more elaborate than what was first proposed. It seems that there's going to be a significant donation to the Citadel and to the Brigadier Foundation that will make those stands a little bit nicer than what has been out there earlier about the way they would look.
Okay. One addendum that I should have said, in 24, if indeed the east side stands are under construction, I was told temporary seating would be added into the end zones, which I don't think there's that much room, but there's going to be enough room evidently to put some kind of temporary seating in the end zones.
Now, there was seating in the end zones back in the old stadium, as I recall, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I remember distinctly a Marshall game when the Citadel was ranked number 1 in the country. Them going out, one of the teams driving in, and I remember their stands there. Yeah, so that was what, 92, I believe.
That was 1992. Unfortunately, a Citadel lost to Marshall in that particular game, but they would come back and win all the other Southern Conference games. And on a cold, rainy day in Greenville, the Citadel, with a victory over Furman, to win the Southern Conference title of 1992.
I was there for that game.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah.
And I was too. I didn't see you there. But I saw somewhere where that 92 team was left off of Southern Conference titles. I forgot. I try to make mental notes of all kinds of crazy things, and we've got to give our 92 and our 1961 or 60 team.
61 or 60. I think 61. I think you're right. I think it is 61.
They won the Southern Conference. It was the 1960 team that I think won the Tangerine Bowl, our only bowl victory going back in the day. But, of course, we've got to salute 2015 and 2016, too.
I was going to say, the one thing I'm surprised at, John, that you haven't brought up more is the stealing of the flag, which to me was I don't know why I thought that was a bigger deal. Maybe it was just me, and I just there was. You're right. There was almost fisticuffs there back in the north end zone. It was quite the show. I had to. And people in the press box are getting all mad about it, and I'm just like, well, if the Citadel cadets had a chance to go steal their flag, there's no doubt they'd have stolen the flag. I mean, that's
Yeah.
That's just I don't want to hear that they wouldn't do the same thing. So.
Well, I don't know what's happened. Speaking of flags inside Johnson Hagood Stadium, some 5-10 years ago, there must have been 50 different big red flags being paraded around during a game, and now I don't think I see but one. Maybe I didn't remember seeing one come through the stands at all. So what's up with that, cadets?
I agreed. Yeah, there were a lot more flags back in the day, but that
literally in the middle of a play, you'd see 7 cadets going back and forth. I don't know if they got extra merits for doing that or not, but it's a pretty good little deal. I mean, we got our own battle flag, for goodness sake. It's a pretty good looking battle flag, don't you think there, Dr. Scruggs?
Absolutely, John. No excuse not to see Big Red out in full display.
Yes, sir.
A Saturday in Johnson Hagood.
So, Thomas, we're going to put you to work on engineering. You're our Citadel Gray Line engineering correspondent. Get us some pumps in the bathroom. Get us some pumps out in the parking lot so you don't have to come in on a 18-wheeler, which is not a bad option, by the way, to go to a Citadel game. And let's make it a better day, because we do have a great home environment. It is a beautiful stadium, and Charleston is the best place you could possibly go. And it's just we got to improve our product on the field, but off the field we could do a little bit better. But we still have a great offering right now at Johnson Hagood Stadium. Anything else, facility or engineering-wise, from your palate, Engineer Scruggs?
No, and John, those restrooms may very well be on pumps. Without being there and seeing it, I wouldn't know. So,
aren't you going to Charleston right now? I think we just came up with a new task.
Yeah, but this is work-related. Sorry, don't have time to stop by Johnson Hagood.
And the bathroom?
Check out the bathrooms. That may be trespassing. I'm not sure.
Nah, we'll let you slide. They'll let you. They know who you are. Your name's on the bathrooms there.
Yeah.
Andrew, anything from you before we get ready to say goodbye for the week?
I got a story coming up on Cameron Wells joining the Citadel basketball staff. That'll be coming out tomorrow. And and then on Friday night, I'm going to my first ever college volleyball game. I've never covered college volleyball, but Bulldogs going for their 21st straight victory here against Sanford, I believe. Friday night, I think it starts at 6 p.m. at McAllister Fieldhouse.
Well, that volleyball team 20-0 right now. And while I was in the Low Country Friday night, I was actually watching Mr. Eisberg and his coverage on the local TV station in Chucktown. And they actually had, as a segment within their high school football recap, enough time to have highlights of the Citadel's dramatic 3-2 victory over Furman, a match of which the Citadel twice had match points against the Paladins. And Furman, you talk about choking, they choke because the Bulldogs are so darn good, evidently, and they had a dramatic come-from-behind 3-2 win over Furman. Then they backed that up with a road win at ETSU. So, yes, you're going to have a great time at McAllister Fieldhouse with this undefeated 20-0, and I don't think there's ever been a sports team. I don't have the history book like Thomas has in front of him. He better have his guide on in front of him, too, right now. I don't think there's ever been an athletic team at the Citadel to go 20-0. Am I right? Either one of you?
I can't remember anything like that now.
So what a feat there by the Bulldogs. We look forward to getting your coverage of that, and we wish the Lady Bulldogs all the greatest best with their volleyball matchups here coming up this weekend. 20-0, a salute to you, Citadel Volleyball. Anything else, sir? We got basketball about to start, practice underway?
Yeah, practice is underway. First game will be on November 6th at NC State. They play Notre Dame as well, as you pointed out last week. So a very challenging schedule for the Bulldogs. And Ed Conroy, I'm cautiously optimistic that they will take some steps forwards here this season in the second year under Ed.
Also, we've got a sport that somebody has asked me about that if there's anything you can add or tell me about, Andrew. I'm pulling this one out of nowhere, so if you don't have anything in front of you, I understand. But wrestling, anything wrestling-wise?
Yeah, I don't, and I'm looking into that. I'm supposed to go next week and check into that as well.
See, I knew it. I knew you would be on top of it. Driving that pile. I love it. I don't know if they do that in college wrestling or not, but
I don't think so.
Yeah. So you're going to have some wrestling and volleyball and so much more. And then you leave the bathrooms, Andrew, to
I'll leave
Thomas.
that to you and Thomas. Yep.
Thomas and I will take care of all the bathroom talk. And by the way, we're going to run out of time today, but one thing Thomas mentioned to me was we've got an undefeated college football team in the FBS ranks that, according to our bathroom engineer, is still running a kind of an option offense. That would be the Air Force Falcons. Have you seen them play ball at all, Andrew?
Not this year, no. But I would be very curious to see what kind of offense and what kind of blocking on the perimeter that they do, because that's been one of the biggest complaints about running those kind of option offenses, is that you can't cut block anymore on the perimeter or at the line of scrimmage. So I'd be interested to see. But I tell you, if the Citadel can get the guys in that they want to get in, the offense is going to look very similar to what Coastal Carolina runs. And I've always thought that was a recipe for success for the Citadel, running that kind of option style offense.
And Thomas, we have an honor system here at Citadel Gray Line. They are running indeed some kind of option offense at USAFA.
John, that's what I read this past week. I have not had a chance to verify it.
So you're quibbling?
No, sir. What I was told was that the Air Force Academy does run the triple option and undefeated. I didn't see what happened to them Saturday, so I had not had a chance to verify that. Of course, I didn't know you were going to mention that on the show. So I appreciate you putting me on the spot.
Well, would you rather talk about bathrooms?
No, I'll leave that up to you, John.
Okay, well, we'll have to that's your assignment for next week. Watch an Air Force Falcon game and report back to me. But they are, to their credit, undefeated right now, so way to go, USAFA out in Colorado Springs. All right, well, gentlemen, that'll pretty much wrap this week's Citadel Gray Line. I want to thank Thomas Scruggs. Wish you well in the Holy City on your work visit, and we'll maybe get a chance to see you when we're back here together next week. You think you can make that happen?
John, I think we can make that happen next week. Absolutely.
All right. Thomas Scruggs, everybody. And Andrew, I want to thank you, sir, for being a great contributor. And go check out, what is it, AP Miller at PNC, something like that?
Yeah, AP Miller _ PNC or something. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
I should know that, and it's embarrassing that I don't. But it's something.
It's, people know who you are. You don't even need an X account, for God's sakes. Andrew, have a great week and enjoy your open week, and we'll see you back here next week.
See you next week.
And we appreciate all of you for being a part of Citadel Gray Line. Have a great open week. We'll be back here to preview Sanford next week and maybe talk about a 21, 22, 23 game win streak for that Cid volleyball team. Go Cadets. Y'all have a great week, and thanks for tuning in.